Recently, an article was published about Joe Biden's desegregationist history. So, according to the article, when Joe Biden was a freshman senator in the mid-1970s, Delaware was engulfed in a bitter battle over school busing, debating whether children should be sent to schools in different neighborhoods to promote racial diversity. Biden spoke out repeatedly and forcefully against sending white children to majority black schools and black children to majority white schools. He played down the persistence of overt racism and suggested that the government should have a limited role in integration. Quote, I do not buy the concept popular in the 60s, which said, we have suppressed the black man for 300 years, and the white man is now far ahead in the race for everything our society offers. In order to even the score, we must now give the black man a head start, or even hold the white man back to even the race. I don't buy that, unquote. In language that bears on today's debate about whether descendants of slaves should be compensated, he added, quote, I don't feel responsible for the sins of my father and grandfather. I feel responsible for what the situation is today, for the sins of my own generation, and I'll be damned if I feel responsible to pay for what happened 300 years ago, unquote. So, what do you think about your vice president?
Damn, Joe. Damn,
fuck you, Joe. Fuck you, Joe. Shout out to DC, man. Fuck you, Joe.
It's like that, Joe.
You know what I mean?
Golly. I just like to remind everybody out there listening that 10 years before that, another candidate that's in the DNC primary was getting arrested for protesting against segregation. His name is Bernie Sanders. You might want to look into that. You know, I'm just saying, right? But Joe Biden. Okay, so this whole thing, he was. I mean, it's a fact, man. It's a fact. But the whole thing is this. Busing itself as a policy was destined to fail, right? What they should have addressed is the inequalities in funding for schools. Because that shit was bound to fail because parents who live in more affluent areas were never going to accept their kids being bused to less affluent areas. They're going to, say, and, rightfully, if you take the system as it is, they do have a point in saying that I worked hard and I bought a house and I'm paying this kind of mortgage in this area and I'm paying this local taxes and property taxes to fund the local schools. So, it's unfair for me for you to take my kids from my area and bus them to a less, wealthy area. So, I mean, they have a point there. And I think that, I think it's not fair given the way the system, the system is. But I think like Joe Biden, what he should have been trying to make is a point that I think we need to talk about as a society is the fact that how we fund schools doesn't make sense to me. The fact that we use local funding, it creates inequality.
It's a way of keeping people out.
It is definitely like a systematic way that's designed. To keep resources out of certain people's hands.
Exactly.
If we're all Americans, if we're all, let's say Virginians, Georgians, New Yorkers, we should pull that money as a state and distribute it evenly.
Yep.
Right? So everybody has the same, start. Especially when it comes to like education. So I mean, I think it's bullshit. Like, and you guys may probably saw this. Like, I can speak on experience. Like, when I go to Atlanta, I drive by my old high school. It's in East Atlanta, right there by Grant Park. And
Shouty.
Zone 3 shouting. And, like, when I was in high school, it was a poor area, right? It was just getting started gentrifying, right? But now it's, like, completely gentrified. Now, the way the school looks from the outside is completely different, man. Like, that school just had a fucking makeover that I didn't even fucking recognize. It looks like a fucking college campus, right? Like, everything looks beautiful and pristine. When I was there, like, the baseball field was fucked up. We didn't even have a dugout. Now, when I looked at the baseball field, it was like, God, beautiful. You know what I mean? And that's just the outside. So you can only imagine the resources inside the building. So, and I know, T, you could probably talk about it, and you saw the riots that happened in Boston when they did force.
I wasn't alive.
I mean,
calm the fuck down.
Yeah, what were you doing during those riots, T?
No, like in the 80s. Huh? But you probably heard about it from.
Of course, it's just,
everybody. I mean, you probably speak on that, but
of course,
he was throwing a few trash cans through windows and shit.
Shit, I can tell y'all stories about my own little issues with those Southie cats when I was going to high school. But but to your point, Rob, the one thing that when you're speaking about, your old neighborhood where you went to high school at, I was going to ask, had the housing prices, have they gone up as well? The appreciation of the home value?
Tremendously, man. Like,
of course.
When I was in high school, that's when like people are just giving these houses away, like 40 grand, 50 grand, right?
Wow.
To investors. Now these houses are worth like 500 grand or whatever.
There you go.
So
gentrification.
Exactly. There you go. And that's what plays into it, right? Like, unfortunately, you're right. Like, even for me, I experienced it on both sides, on both fronts, where I was bussed outside of the city and I went into the affluent neighborhoods for high school, for 3 years anyway, from sophomore year to senior year. And thank goodness I was in a neighborhood where they were welcoming to the kids. I was in what they called the Metco program in Boston. And essentially, it allowed the kids from the inner city of Boston to be able to attend high school outside of the city where schools were, more, prominent, had better curriculums and things like that, and allowed you to, get ahead, so to speak. Unfortunately, because, I did grow up in the inner city, and because home values at the time when we were coming up in the late 80s, early 90s, probably dated myself, but it's all good. Home, shit was fucked up. It was depressing, right? Poverty was poverty.
I'm broke, nigga, I'm broke.
No doubt. Crack was ill. We saw the advent and the just the rise and just the continuance of the crack era. We went through that. We saw that during that time in the late 80s, early 90s. So a lot of the schools were fucked up. I mean, I knew the war zone schools, right in my neighborhood. I was like, nope, can't go there. Nope, don't want to go there. Nope, too much drama in that spot. So you see that a lot. And to your point, Rob, it's funny. I remember a few years ago, I was looking at entering education management, and I did a lot of research on how public schools are funded and the system and how it works, and it's asinine, right? Of course the inner city schools will be fucked up because most of the people who live in inner cities don't own homes. Right. So if they're not owning any homes, then how are you going to be able to collect any tax to fund the schools in those neighborhoods? And if the states, and when the state takes it over, the state is basically taking it over only for test purposes. They don't give a fuck about really the infrastructure of the school or the programs. They cut everything to a point where they gut the damn school so bad that they end up closing them. That's really what happens when a lot of times when the state takes over. So that's not a solution. And to your point, man, and something that, you see time and time again, and even where I live now, right? You can tell anytime the schools that are prominent, that are doing well, and students are, flourishing and going on to big and better, it's in neighborhoods where the home prices are asinine and high, asininely high. I don't know if asinine is a word, but I'm on my Kanye West shit. Asininely.
Yeah, exactly, man. I mean, like, it's just think about it logically, like common sense. Even if you have a place where the median income is like 100,000 and above, right? And you have another area where the median income is like 30,000. You're talking about two completely different worlds, right? Yeah. And all you're doing by the current system of funding schools is that you're maintaining that system. You're making sure that, these people always have an advantage over these people over here.
You mean like college admission?
It's fucking crazy, man, when you think about it. Like, I just think about it from my own experience, man. The only thing that I liked about Atlanta Public Schools, that they had a program. I don't know if they had this in y'all cities, but it's called the Magnet Program.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you could, if you did well enough in school, you could choose the high school that you wanted to go to.
Yeah, they have that in New York too.
Like if they specialize in like arts and design or computers or whatever.
It's super competitive though.
Yeah, it's very competitive. Like I know, well, in Boston we had what they call the exams high schools, right? So you had 3 schools. It was Boston Latin, Boston Latin Academy, and then at the time it was called Boston Technical High School, but now they've renamed it to John D. O'Brien School of Mathematics and Science, some shit. So just those exam schools, but pretty much you pretty much would like zoned into whatever school wherever your neighborhood was. You know, if you didn't take an exam, you were fucked. You know, and then of course you can attend private schools or whatever. But yeah, you were pretty much fucked if you lived in a certain neighborhood. So yeah, we didn't have that opportunity like that, but yeah, it's all fucked up.
Yeah, New York has schools like that. It was it's Brooklyn Tech, Bronx Science, and Stuyvesant over in Manhattan, and those are like very tough schools to get into. You have to pass exams and shit. Extremely competitive to get into. They're public schools, but yeah, they're extremely tough to get into.
Oh. So that sounds like the 3 schools I just mentioned.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I guess that was a magnet program because yeah, you could take as long as you can get in those 3 schools. But here's what was fucked up, and my bad, sir. I'll let you chime in on this. But what was fucked up about the exam schools in Boston, right? Mm-hmm. And I experienced this. So the pecking order, if you really want to look at it this way, is Boston Latin is the best. Then you have Boston Latin Academy, and the 3rd school, Boston Tech. We'll just use that name for now. And what happened was I took the exam and I got in to Boston Tech because that's what I chose, right? Mm-hmm. Now, mind you, I went to private school my first year in my freshman year of high school. That's when I had the drama with the Southie kids fighting every fucking day. It was out of control. The motherfuckers thought they were dealing with some fucking clown ass motherfuckers. I don't know.
Good with hunting shit.
They thought they would. We had to show them quickly.
Do you like apples? Do you like apples?
We Malcolm Littles, where I'm from. We whooping ass, dog. We ain't fucking around. We are free. Yeah. So we used to get it every day. And my thing was my mom was paying money for me to go to school, And the thing about it was I got to the school at that. So I'm like, wait a fucking minute. My mother's paying money for me to come here and fight, and I could do that shit in a public school? Fuck this shit. I ain't dealing with this bullshit. So anyway, and then
they were like Larry Bird. You were like Robert Parrish.
Man, I was chiefing those motherfuckers. I was whooping their ass like how Robert Parrish beat up Bill Lampier. I was whooping. That's
interesting. Yeah, we'll need to hear the more details about those stories, man.
It's crazy, man. I'm telling you,
fighting the sides.
Race riots,
the Matt Damons.
Race riots are real, bro. I'm telling you now. But we definitely chop. But anyway, yeah. So what was crazy about the whole system about the exam schools? So I had taken the test, got into let's call it the 3rd ranked test school. So next in my sophomore year, I said, okay, well, I took the exam and I passed. I should be able to, I want to go to Boston Latin. I'm willing to take the test again, whatever. Basically, what I found out and what they told my mom and I was this. Because I got into Boston Technical High School at the time, and because I chose that as my top school that I wanted to go to, I had no choice but to go to that school. I couldn't take the test again. I had to go to that particular high school because that's what I chose. They even told my mom and I, your test scores were high enough that if you had chose Boston Latin, the top test school, you would have got in. You could go. Mm-hmm. But the problem is, because you took the exam, you passed, and you were accepted into one school, you're tracked, essentially, right, into that school. And that's when I really discovered how fucked up education was, especially secondary education, high school education. It's fucked up in this country. And if you ever want to really know how fucked up education is in this country, and I'm sure y'all brothers know about Waiting for Superman.
Yeah.
About that. Mm-hmm. That's when I realized the whole game of tracking.
I haven't watched. It's a documentary
about how the tracking system in high schools and how they track kids into particular career paths almost, right?
Tracks,
it's real. And that's when I learned, like, oh shit, I was tracked. Basically, I couldn't get out of my track. I had to go to that high school, and I did not have a choice to say, okay, I was willing to take the exam. I said, I'll take it again. Fuck it. You know what I'm saying? If y'all just want to make sure. They said, oh, no. Your exam scores were high enough and you did well. Problem is, though, you chose the 3rd test school as your first choice. So you have to go to that school, the 3rd ranked. And so it just goes to show how fucked up the education system is and how it needs to be reformed on that front as well.
Yeah.
To get back to Joe Biden's a piece of shit.
Y'all
talk about some other shit, but I want to emphasize the fact that Joe Biden's a piece of shit. He was talking about doesn't believe that black people have been suppressed or whatever. He doesn't want to have to pay for it. You know what? Joe Biden basically to me he's been eliminated. I don't fuck with Joe Biden. He's proven himself to be not an ally to the black community. So as far as I'm concerned, he's gone. I would never vote for him. But he's proven that he's basically against anything that would help African Americans in this country. So based on that, that's kind of what I just wanted to say before we move on.
Well, we definitely, to a degree gave him a pass, right? But he was the author of the fucking crime bill. I mean, let's keep it a buck there, right? I mean, he got a pass.
He's more of a Republican to me, man. I'm not looking forward to voting for anybody who's a moderate right now. Anybody who is like part of the establishment, talking that bipartisanship shit, I don't want to hear from them. And I will do whatever I can in the primaries to advance people who actually believe in liberal causes, man. Because we can't have another person like Joe Biden,
Barack Obama.
Truthfully, if Obama was running right now in the primaries, he would not be my first choice. I gave him I give him a pass because he's black. I'll admit it. Shit, we needed a black president. You know what I'm saying?
Are you gonna be able to go back to Kenya now?
Huh?
Are you gonna be able to go back to Kenya now?
A lot of Kenyans low key don't fuck with that nigga like that.
Really?
Oh, word? For real?
I mean, a lot of people love him, but there are people who are like, look, when he tried to push the gay agenda in Africa. True. He turned off a lot of people, man.
I mean, Obama. Not to get off track, but Obama. He'll go to African countries and he'll wag his finger at African countries for their stance on gays, but he won't do that shit with Saudi Arabia or any of the other countries. He likes. That's the thing about Obama. He loves talking down to black people because he knows he can, and black people still fuck with him. But he can't get away with doing that shit with other people.
Yeah, so a lot of Africans will kind of give him the side eye, like, yo, what the fuck, man?
They're like, look, homie, you have, nigga. You have. Don't get it fucked up over here.
Like tread lightly,
Especially the men. I mean? Especially the men. Like women, he's got women, right? Like, but the men are like, yo. We're not done with this shit, motherfucker.
They're like that's the American in you speaking.
He's like, Obama's like, look, man, I got a job to do. I'm not trying to pander, man. That's all, man. But yeah, he definitely, was one of those presidents that he was a president of all. And I'm like, great, fuck. I really was one of those people where I felt like, okay, second term, all right, man, show out. Who gives a fuck? They can't kick you out the White House. Go hard.
But nope.
And it was definitely
it's not him.
It was a thump.
It's definitely not him, bro.
Yeah, it's not him. Yep, exactly. No doubt, not him. So we're waiting. We're waiting patiently for that nigga.
We'll see.